Good evening, all, I suppose we should say.
Indeed. Good
all
evening.
Being a few different faces.
Yeah, we are joined by on the is it lockdown eve today or is that tomorrow?
That's tomorrow. It goes
So
lockdown.
lockdown eve for autumn in the UK. So we are 5-man fresh at Casa de Sibley this evening where we're recording this podcast. Brilliant. Cheers, Charlie. Yeah. So before we all just have a month off to stew in our own sweat for a month on our own, yeah, essentially. We thought we'd get some of the gang together who listeners will know. We've got Paul.
Good evening.
And Chuck.
Good evening.
Both we had both of you on series 1, I think it was. Is that right?
Yeah, both on series 1.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
Chuck doesn't know. Chuck still doesn't know what
I do.
podcast is.
Mate, yeah. 60s child.
Yes.
He
So
wishes.
we're actually going to kind of split this evening in two. So you'll hear the first half of this week, and then Andy, the editor extraordinaire, is going to delight listeners with part 2 essentially next week. So we've got lots to talk about around this table tonight. So we shall begin with the fallout from Sunday, which was Ren 20.
It was, but how about, do we talk about your little trip to Germany first?
Oh my God, I totally forgot about the trip to
Yeah.
Germany.
So come on, let's do Germany.
Very good, yes. Oh yeah, because I missed last week.
Yeah. So you did that just in time to get there before Germany shut down.
Yes, ideal.
So take
totally
us through
forgot
it.
about that, but that is another awesome reason why Paul's here, because Paul accompanied me on that trip, and we literally, I mean, I say it's like escaping a burning building. It wasn't. It's more like coming back to a burning building because our COVID case rates were a lot higher here than they are in Germany.
There.
We should be
Safer
In
place.
the archive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Vaulted away for
Vaulted away in the
eternity.
museum storage.
It was phenomenal. But yes, we left on the Thursday, came back on the Saturday. When we went out, Germany's attitude for UK citizens was you have to prove that you're not in a low risk area. So we took with us ID, but then also utility bills for hotels to prove that we lived, on the south coast and we were tier 1 at the time.
Yeah.
But then on the last day of us being there, they said, no, actually, we've changed our minds. All of the UK is a high risk area. You either need to
Get out.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you had to have a negative COVID test from the last 48 hours
From a European country.
from a European Union country,
Which we aren't. UK's
well,
done that.
from January the 1st,
Yeah.
it's changing.
Oh, yeah.
Or get out of town, basically. So we had to do that. So we were coming back Saturday anyway.
Yeah.
We went over in a 992 Turbo S. That was a, what should we call it, repatriation vehicle for the 959. So we dumped stuff in the Turbo S, went to Porsche Classic, picked up the 959, which was having a service, wasn't it? At Classic was the...
Yeah, it certainly was having a service.
So collected that. We also, while we were there, had an amazing look around Porsche Classic, which I don't know about you, Paul, but I thought that, I wasn't expecting that, and I wasn't expecting to see some of the goodies that they've got in their Aladdin's Cave.
No, it was incredible. And just sort of under each cover, there was something new, something different, including Project Gold.
Project Gold, yes. So obviously the last time the public saw Project Gold it's in the States at the back end of 2018, I think it was. Went to a buyer in the Middle East, didn't it?
Yeah, Middle East, but he had it delivered back to Porsche, I believe, and that's where it remains. I think because of the import duty.
Yeah, but we just, we're walking along, and it was Matthias, wasn't it, at Porsche Classic?
Yeah.
Top man, and walking along, just kind of pulled this cover up the corner of the car and said, oh yeah, here's Project Gold. Our jaw hit the floor, the way he said it just so kind of nonchalantly. Then
Did you get to have a little look round it then? Did he?
Not really. Well, it lifted like the back end of the thing up, so we'd seen that, but that was about it. But then
It's still got the dodgy gold wheels, right?
it's got the lot. Yes, exactly as is. I saw it at Rennsport Reunion actually.
What did you think to it at Rennsport?
At Rennsport Reunion? There was a really interesting article we did in T911 on it. I interviewed the Porsche Classic people that put it together. And I kind of said at the time, it's fantastic marketing.
Yeah.
Essentially. And do you know what? Funnily enough, I had a really interesting conversation with Jürgen Barth, about half an hour afterwards, and he was very, very vocal in his opinion of Project Gold, and basically just said this is pure marketing.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So I thought the idea was cool. If it wasn't a charity auction, then I don't think it would have got anywhere near the figure it did.
Sorry, I diverted you off your conversation.
No sweat. But it's a marketing car, I think, is essentially the thing.
Just like a Cayman.
Slight.
Hold up there. Hold up.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe's woken up.
But we saw that, and then Porsche Classic, we saw like, here's a 964 Turbo S flat nose just chilling over there, and it's just that sort of level of just unbelievable kind of Porsches, wasn't it? 550 Spider chilling in there.
Yeah, a soft window Targa.
Yes, I mean they're super, super, super rare,
and some interesting, shall we say, cars in need of repair.
Oh yes, yeah. Go on.
That wasn't due to deterioration due to weather. It was whether they went off the road or not.
Really?
And, including a 959 and
Carrera GT.
Carrera GT that had been repaired in Marbella.
Oh, it was some bizarre outpost that they glued carbon fibre back together. It looked like
They put
PVA.
fiberglass over the carbon fibre. It was
shit.
Oh, where people have done dodgy repairs, they've got
big
back in
time.
there.
Porsche. The car had been taken to Porsche, and they'd found this repair.
Oh, I see. Historic repairs. They've done.
Historic repairs that somebody done.
To the chassis of the car, essentially. It was like, obviously there were no cameras allowed in that room.
No, it didn't.
Which was hilarious. But then, so as part of the trip, as well as picking up the car, we were photographing and doing some video work, which will be on my YouTube channel in good time. Doing some work with some like really special cars that involved us going to Porsche's secret / not so secret storage facility.
Yeah.
Which, I've kind of said to Paul and many people before that I just love that to be my bedroom. I'd just put my bed in there, and I don't care if I never saw anything else on this planet ever again. I'd be completely content in there. Any and all cars from Porsche's history are sitting in that room.
Yeah. From
Le Mans winners to prototypes to pre-production
How many cars are actually in there, do you reckon? Hundreds?
I'd say 300. Yeah, I think that's not bad.
They're stacked as well.
Yeah.
But actually, what I found really is Le Mans winners, 959 prototypes, Mercedes 500E, which was built by Porsche. But there were loads of 924s, 944s, 928s, slightly quirky, bit of prototypey. And it was just fantastic to see models which were really important for the company's history in there.
Yeah.
And they may not be the sort of icons that people look at, but they value those as much as they do the icons.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting.
Oh, massively so. And it's like literally any and all model that's just important, historically significant to that company and what's made that company today.
Has that facility kind of always been there, or is that become, is it over only the last 20 years that's existed and they've bought cars to fill that, or is it?
No. They've in terms of their collection, and they do look at it as a collection. They've realised they have gaps. So until 5 years ago, something like that, they realised they didn't own a 2.7 RS, so they went and purchased one. They've now got a Touring. They realised they didn't have an early 911, and they acquired chassis 57, which, as we found out, was actually the very last ever 901.
Yeah, that was
rebadging.
Really interesting.
And that was completely serendipitous. A German television production company approached Porsche and said, we've kind of found this old 911 in a barn.
Yeah.
Here's the chassis number. What do you think? And they said, okay, we'll come and have a look at it. And then the more research they did, they were like, wow, this is a super, super early car. This is the 57th 911 ever made. And as it turned out, it was badge 901. And then the next day, the fallout from the Citroën fiasco had come to fruition, and everything had to get rebadged 911. So that was the last car that got 901 before it went to 911. So there are things where they've filled gaps, but they've always had that facility. And actually, it wasn't until like the 911 turned 50, sort of 2013. This is to the best of my knowledge, by the way, that they kind of let people in there. And I've been incredibly fortunate to get in there about 3 or 4 or 5 times now. But it's completely off limits to the public.
Yeah.
And we only get in there when there's certain requests through T911 or the video stuff, whereby you need to be in there. It's not a case of come and have a look, and if there's anything you want to shoot, be our guest. You have to have a reason to be in there,
Yeah.
So
Are they still squirreling away more modern stuff? And what's the cut-off, or is it everything?
there's modern stuff in there.
Yeah, there was a couple of 911Rs. There's a GT3 Touring.
Okay, so it's up to current models.
Yeah, current GT3 RSs, GT2 probably. I don't remember seeing one, but I'm pretty sure there was one there. A lot of 991s. There were some limited 991s that they produced.
Yeah,
but
they rotate that facility with the cars in the museum.
Yeah.
So like the millionth 911, the Irish Green 991, that was on display in the museum. But then when they have a switch around, they'll just pull some other cars out of this storage. And actually, Paul and I, our visit was about 3-4 days after Goodwood Speed Week.
Oh, yeah.
And at that storage facility was the GT198 car that was on display at Goodwood. We saw the 993 GT2R that the freelance writer Carl Fortune had driven for Total 911 magazine on the Saturday, Sunday, and then on the Wednesday, it was sitting there, and it's just like, talk about German efficiency. They didn't hang around it, but it was, and that's what I mean. It really is. It's just like
it's a proper working vase.
Yeah.
there was a lot of passion there.
Huge, huge.
We were shown around the museum by.
Yes, Kuno, his name was. I can't remember his surname now.
Yeah, but he was at the head of the museum. He's what, mid-40s?
I'll say so. Yeah,
mid-40s. Was an apprentice at Classic originally, and worked his way through, and the knowledge he had, and the passion, and he's just wandering around telling us all this, particularly about that 901. It's quite some interesting features, which I'm sure will appear in a quiz.
So
definitely, yeah.
So all these cars then are service ready to go. There's like a rotor. The Ford do the same. They've got every race car they've ever produced, and they're all ready to go. They just have a clear cover over them. You lift it and drive it off, or put a battery on it, basically.
Yeah, that is essentially like if they know they've got something coming up like Goodwood or whatever, then that's what Porsche are really good at with the museum guys. They know what event's coming up, and they make sure the cars are ready to go.
Yeah,
and that's
300 cars or so must be a minefield to try and get around. So obviously some don't move, and then other ones are ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. Just logistically organising that. Wow.
Impressive,
the
guy had this amazing machine where you literally went up to the car and just lifted the axle and just moved around. He was incredibly skillful. Bear in mind, we saw him moving a Carrera GT, sort of past a 959.
Yeah, what to go wrong?
Wouldn't have a bad day at work doing that.
This is it. But it really is like you walk around and just everywhere you look, you're just completely spoilt by what you're seeing.
Yeah,
it's overwhelming.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah,
you do actually need to take a breath, just calm down. So these guys were filming, so I was wandering around and got slightly told off because I was going into all kinds of
lifting covers on things you shouldn't have been.
Surreptitiously, it's not good on a podcast, but surreptitiously with the iPhone was sort of like clicking away,
it was spot on. But three of the cars that we photographed on the day, two of the three, they're owned by the Porsche family, so we had to get permission to picture the car and to do the videos with them. One we didn't. I don't mind saying what one that is for now. The other one I want to keep under our hat for a little bit. But the one we did video that didn't belong to them was the Bulletproof 996, which was super cool. It was Paul's talking about this like whizzy thing that the bloke used to like just clip the cars on and then cart them around. This Bulletproof 996 weighed 3 tons.
Oh my
and
word.
he was basically, dancing this car around, one-handedly, just shimmying it around for us, and it was not a problem at all.
What did they build a Bulletproof 996 for?
Obviously there'll be an article and a video coming where you'll find out exactly that. But
gives the short version.
I don't mind saying for now that essentially
your videos are a bit long.
They're only 9 minutes and 11 seconds. The short story is Mercedes were doing a lot of bulletproof cars in the late 90s for diplomats and royal families and whatnot. And Porsche just thought, we'd quite like to have a go at that. So they built a car just as a concept to see how it went. Interestingly, it's only the glass that is, double glazed, bulletproof glass. The doors aren't. So, it's just a normal.
You get your knackers shot off
super hairy glass. Yeah, but it's quite funny. It was an early Amber Lens 996 3.4 Carrera standard engine. So you've got a 3-ton car powered by 300 horsepower, leggy 3.4 flat six, like no turbo to help it along.
Yeah.
So You might be bulletproof, but you're not getting out the war zone anytime soon, are you, you know? But cool car.
100 horsepower a ton is
yeah,
not
exactly
quite where it's at. Is it?
Quick maths. I like it. But it was just a thing to say, well, look, you know, we can do it essentially. It was in jade green as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was jade green.
Very good.
Lovely car.
So
I understand there's a lot of that paint knocking around.
Right, so one time I see you showing the head of a museum pictures of Little Irish there, wondering whether they might jump on this for their collection.
well, I was thinking, yeah, exactly. If you ever fancy a proper car, obviously, never mind any of these crap that you've got in here.
He did say, is that original?
Yeah, he did. Because I noticed he said at one stage, what did he say? I think he intimated. Yes, he said he didn't like Fuchs wheels on modern 911s.
It was the Sport Classic.
Yes.
Sport Classic. We were going down this line of cars, and they were in a particular display in the museum. And there was started with the prototype 2.7 RS.
Yes.
Which was
Sportmatic gearbox.
Yes.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Followed by a Ruby Stone.
Yeah.
A 964, and he was all over that.
Yeah.
The next car was it was a turbo 993 Turbo S.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Sport Classic, and he was quite open about the fact he didn't think the Fuchs wheels were appropriate.
Did you then pull out the picture of your car?
I did it at the end in the museum shop. I said, yeah, obviously you're not going to like this, but yeah, here we go. What do you think of that? He was either quite enchanted by the car or a very good actor.
Yeah, he's got an equity card.
Yeah, exactly.
You say not better in white.
No, wrapped.
Yeah, that's it, rat white.
But actually, I had to say, I mean, what a lovely bloke. I said to him, well, Kuno, you must own a Porsche, surely, to work here. And he's had one or two, but like I think he's got two at the moment, but his current sort of like daily beta is a 993 Carrera Cabriolet. Yeah, I should have let them guess. But what's really interesting, there's something in the water at Porsche with 993 Carrera cabs, because Dr. Frank Stefan Volliser, the head of the 911 production line, he's got one.
Yeah.
Andres Preuninger, his daily is a 993 Carrera cab. And now this guy who's head of like the museum and archive, essentially. And you just think, well, those cars are really like underrated over here.
They know.
People, well, yeah, you were backing it up.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe there was a free surplus of them going at some point.
This is what I mean, but you know, they've, in fairness,
I reckon, I got it. I know what it is.
Go on.
When they couldn't sell them, they did like 50% discount for
gave them
staff.
away, yeah, probably. They've all had the suspension modified, so they're all now kind of running aftermarket coilovers on them, which I thought was interesting. But otherwise, they're just like, yeah, brilliant car, great daily hack. And as I say, over here, I mean, there's a huge difference in price between a 993 C2 coupe and then a cab.
Yeah,
there's a massive gulf, and you just think, what do the Germans know there that we don't? You know,
Struggle on taste, don't they, with the Germans? Shouldn't say that about them at all. That's the famous.
His other car was a Targa with the tartan interior. A yellow Targa with a tartan interior.
Was it a 964? I can't remember. No, I don't think it was.
It's
an early one.
Carrera. It's Carrera.
Yeah, G body
series,
Targa.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, cool double garage. Yeah, well remembered on that. To be fair, I totally forgotten. But yeah, so that was cool. So we'd been completely spoilt in this day. I mean, it was a long day. We didn't actually have any lunch, but I mean, where you're walking around looking at all these cars,
you
not
don't need
I'm
food.
hungry. Yeah, exactly. So we kind of did that, and then retired to the hotel for the evening. Had about, I don't know, 30 kilos of schnitzel each because we accidentally.
I've seen a picture of that.
Oh my god!
It was just, I just couldn't believe it when it arrived. It was just the biggest plate of food I think I've ever seen.
Built for Germans.
Yeah, but very good, like quintessential German cuisine, wasn't it? So,
Big Steiner beer, lovely.
yeah. And then obviously, got the next day, and you know, we left before we were booted out of the country, essentially. But it did involve, obviously, we had a 992 Turbo S. It was a 205 mile an hour 911, and then the 959, quite famously, is a 200 mile an hour 911.
So interested to hear what you felt, both of you, because you must have. Did you swap over?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
Did, and I have to say, Paul, you know about this anyway, but We'd probably 45 minutes from Aachen. So how we kind of got round not quarantining when we came back to the UK was we went to the last point of Germany, which is Aachen.
Yeah.
Because I'll qualify it by saying the quickest way to get to the museum normally from the UK is head down to Reims. You can get the shot at the grandstand, and then you just head east through the Black Forest, and then you're at Stuttgart. But we went up past Cologne to Aachen on the border with Belgium and Holland. And then you nip through Belgium and Holland and then France and then to the ferry that way. It's about 3.5 hours from Aachen to there. And we had to not stop in Belgium or France because if we did, we'd have to quarantine.
No weeing.
Yes, exactly that. So we brimmed the cars, didn't we, at Aachen, which, as you said, was quite funny because we had these, lovely cars worth a fair bit, but we were putting like 12 quid's worth of in, basically. And then just, not have a wee from that point until we got back to Blighty. But maybe 45 minutes before we got to Aachen, Paul said, should we stop? And then kindly said, would you like to have a go in the 959? And obviously I cordially and politely said, please, can I? So jumped in the car, and I genuinely had a moment, boys, driving along in this car because...
What, teary moment?
I genuinely, there was something in my eye, put it that way. But at that point, I just thought I'm driving a 959 on the Autobahn in Germany. I mean, talk about, you're driving the car on its home territory. The car was built to do 200 mile an hour, have air conditioning. You could listen to the radio if you want. That is the quintessential Autobahn car, wasn't it? Super sports car at the time. And I thought, I'm doing it. Here I am. And, I just thought there is not a single person on this planet right now that is a luckier sod than I am. Not a single person. And, obviously pushed the accelerator, went up. I saw 260 clicks and then eased off because it wasn't my car. And I thought there's more to go wrong than right at this point. So I was quite happy with my innings on that, if you like. And just, let off and just thought, bloody hell, this is absolutely absurd. So, I had a moment when we kind of pulled up at Aachen to swap over. I said to Paul, I've basically just had a cry in your car. But phenomenal.
At least it was only a cry.
Yeah. I've said to you many a time, and say it again publicly, Paul. Thank you for that, mate. Because that was
pleasure. It was actually, but for me as well, being there and driving that car in Germany on the Autobahn, and as you say, hitting certain speeds which wouldn't do in the UK, but certainly you'd be looking in your rear view mirror waiting for the Rozzers. And you could just perfectly legally, but also people you were going past or were coming up, but diesel Audis who, they get all slow down, they're like putting their thumbs up and pictures in the petrol stations that they were coming, can we take a picture? Yeah, absolutely. But actually for me to see Lee, the pleasure of him getting in that car and then seeing the car on the road
moving,
and then to actually see it rolling on the road, and you're seeing what other people are seeing, gives you that great pleasure. But and then also it's a friend of yours that's driving it, and the pleasure they're getting from that is it's half the buzz of
pleasure.
But I have to say as well, that car at 150 mile an hour felt so stable. And you're just going, this car is 35 years old next year. And as Ben Dimpson told us, the designer, which we'll find out in the next episode, it has active aerodynamics in terms of the chassis. And all of that, and the fixed rear wing, and all of that aerodynamics was all built for that car to do that sort of speed. And like I say, 35 years ago, you've got to consider the other cars that were on the road at the time, as we've spoken about.
That's nuts, isn't it?
That car was it felt so safe, felt so wonderful at that speed.
Well, I think you felt that Chuck. I mean, and Andy, when we've been to events in the UK and we've been just cruising along normally, but you sit in it and it feels just totally sorted, and the
ride is unreal. You don't. You're going along the road and you see like something in the road, a pothole or something, and you're like, but you go over it and you don't even feel it or hear it. It's just amazing, the suspension.
The ride's great. The brakes are excellent.
That's incredible.
And again, the aerodynamics are fantastic.
I think we were just going down a dual carriageway, not doing massive speeds, but it did get more secure at speed. It just seemed to be very straight. It wasn't blown around. It's comfortable. I mean, even the sleeping policeman's going out of the event, I was cringing looking at them thinking, this is going to be, Porsches are quite firm and you get a bit of a jolt, but there's nothing with that.
Yeah.
So it's such an intelligent car, and it's hard to look at it and think it was built at that time, because, I was sort of looking at it, and the missing rain gutters make it look a different car. And it does, I was trying to look at it for ages thinking, well, it doesn't look like a G Series, it's really unusual. But the best shot is across the top of the back wing through the actual spoiler.
Yeah.
Lots of people taking pictures. And I said to someone, look at that picture, you know what I mean? Because it is just an amazing sculpture.
That's very true. But the other thing, if you look at the technology that is in that car, and we've said it, and you compare, we had a 992 Turbo S. If you look at all the things that are on that Turbo S, you could take them back to that point with the 959. All the thinking was there, and some of the bits that are on it we're not going to mention because I'm sure they may form a question in a quiz coming your way soon. But it is incredible. You just tick these boxes that these things are there. And there was this car 35 years ago. And
we advanced.
We had we counted active four-wheel drive system, it being four-wheel drive to begin with, of course. Active aerodynamics. Twin turbochargers, albeit obviously they operate differently now. So many,
the ride height, you've got three settings on
so axle lift, I suppose. Then,
which it is.
ABS.
Did you say rain mode?
So the 959 has rain mode. And the Turbo S has wet mode.
And it has snow mode.
It does make sense, because the 959 has just been a number on a page, but having been in it, and say thanks Paul again, but it's just brilliant car, and you're in a G Series, but it's not. It's really weird. You keep getting glimpses, lots of controls, by the way, lots of lights across it more than anything. But it makes sense, because you think, it's just another car that's a lot of money. But if you had the money, you probably wouldn't want for anything else, because it does it in terms of performance.
Tyre pressure monitoring.
TPM, yes, well played.
TPM.
Well played.
But it is, and that's part of the fact. Not only is it an amazing car to drive, but when you hit 4,500 revs, that second turbo comes in. It's just the back end just sits down and it's off. It's like almost being in Concorde, about sort of going off down the runway.
It really is, and that is felt unshakable. Our sense lock wheels is another one while we're still on those. But the 959, we kind of forget about it in 2020, but the 959 was late. The 959 was way over budget. It was loss making every car they sold in terms of the R&D they had to make to do the car. They were so cash strapped at the time. The reason the car couldn't be sold in the States is because Porsche couldn't give the US government or authorities a car to crash to get it crash certified. It arguably cost Helmut Bott his job. Peter Schutz, the CEO, left not long after that. Again, that was linked to that, and yet that car has become the celestial Porsche, and has become to represent everything that company stands for in terms of engineering excellence and integrity. And as we've discussed, 35 years later, there is so much on that car that is still relevant to the cars we drive today. Incredible. I genuinely don't believe there will ever be another Porsche like the 959.
Just
don't.
Could you spec a 959? Did it come with an options list, or were they all pretty much the same out the box?
As far as I've sort of been able to make out, you had the ordinary, the comfort, the comfort car, and there were 298 of those, something like that, 303, somewhere around 300. There were 29 sports, and then there was a Series 2 car, which is actually the one that I'm lucky enough to own, and they were built in 92, 93. Actually, they were the only ones built at Porsche, I believe.
Oh, wow. Great fact.
How many of the Series 2 ones were built? 8. So that car is one of 8.
One of 8 in Series 2. There doesn't seem to be a big differential between them. There's a couple of oddities. The later cars don't appear to have the tri-coloured sort of seats.
Okay.
But equally, there are others that don't have those either. The Sport, it doesn't have air conditioning, has a different suspension system. There's a bit more power. It would be very easy to up the power in the standard car, and it's Bruce Canapar, is it, who's currently converting cars in the States. And I'm slightly. I think the car's a bit too iconic to do it, but of course America started with not having none, and it took Bill Gates and a Washington lawyer to get this status in that it was a car of importance and was over 25 years old, therefore it was allowed to be used. And then Ralph Lauren had one, but Bruce has been taking cars and effectively taking them apart, taking suspension out and remodeling, putting 600, 700, 800 horsepower through them. Wow. I slightly view that as, it's not like Singer where you're taking from a pool of a lot of 964s. And I think his conversions are $1 million. Everyone he does, in my view, takes another out of the pool.
Takes a real one off the road.
A real one out. And I think why do it to a car like that represents so much? I'm not saying he's wrong, and that if the customers want to do it, that's fine. But for
Seems
me,
a bit of a shame, doesn't it?
I agree. I think it's. Would you do it to an F40?
Well, you're arguing, are you making it better? I don't think you are. You're taking a car and you're making it quicker.
And as we were saying, there's so much historical significance to that car. It almost, shouldn't. It would be like, giving Stonehenge a respray. You just don't touch it.
We have a contact at Canapa.
Yes, we do. Yeah, Damon, we'll get him on.
Yeah, so that'd be really interesting.
It'd be really interesting to hear, because there are certain things that they're doing which I completely understand and agree with. One of which is the headlights.
Yeah.
Which is really encouraging, but it's sort of the price of a Polo set headlights, as far as I can make out. They give different prices different times. The other thing they're doing is effectively remaking the wheels, but slightly bigger, but to take the modern tyre technology. At the moment, they run on run flat Bridgestones, and you have to wait for them to produce the tyre.
A batch,
a batch. So at the moment, when I took my car to Porsche Classic for the service, they suggested that I ought to change the tyres because they were 4 years old, and but they'd done very few miles, and the only miles they'd done were mine, and I've done about 5,000 kilometres in the car. And they said it was actually Greg Kremer, who's Auto Heritage Works, said to me, just ask them before you agree it what the date stamp is on the tyres they're proposing to put on, and they were 2017. So I declined, and we'll wait for the next batch to be made. But I think there is some argument to look at that.
I'm sure I heard that they were actually designed for the 959 was designed to have 18-inch wheels, but there weren't any tyres available from the manufacturers at that time, and they scaled the wheels down to 17s so that they could get tyres. Don't know if that's right.
So Porsche actually partnered with Michelin at the time.
Yeah.
I think it was Michelin, to create a tyre specifically for the 959 because, they're run flat tyres sitting on a centre lock wheel, again, built to take a speed of 200 mile an hour under a certain load. There wasn't a tyre out there for it. I don't know about that tyre.
I can't remember where I picked that up.
That was with Michelin because they're definitely Bridgestones.
It was. It was Michelin at the time.
Right. But I think they wanted to put the run flat technology on there because they were worried of the consequences of a blowout at those speeds. So this tyre was developed. I have to say, they seem perfectly good, and we've all driven cars with older rubber remote technology, and you are. The rest of the car does an awful lot to flatter the tyre if it's not quite up to it, but it appears.
It's interesting that's the only piece, isn't it, that's age related, because today there's many tyres, many wheels, and engineering companies that can make you a wheel that will do 200 mile an hour, because that was a problem on Daytona flats, was things were blowing up the faster they got, bearings were giving up, tyres were giving up, so you're in a good 20, 35 year window to say, well, I've got choice now. You can change them if you wanted to.
Yeah, well, I tracked down where the Bruce's wheels are made, which is in Italy, and I approached the Italian manufacturers and got politely turned away because they insisted they would then send them to America where they would be taxed, then send them to me in the UK where they would be taxed. And I said, I'm really happy to pay you a royalty, just can we deliver them directly to the UK for the £2,500, not £10,000? And I shall pursue that one later, because I like the alternative there.
Yeah.
The other problem you've got is, of course, there are you have to deal with the tyre pressure monitoring systems, which are in there as well.
Yeah. That's the thing.
That must be a consumable, though, I thought. So it's not, there must be some similar component, because it can't, what happens if it goes wrong now? There's got to be something else to go into it. I think my only point is you're on the peripheral of what is underneath the car, because my experience was when you drove the car, everything was so tight, it almost felt like a race car, the straight cut gear, and that probably isn't, but it was that sort of noise. There's no movement in anything, gear change, engine lag, engine change, a bit of slap, it's just so solid.
Yeah, it does solid, feel. Yeah. It really does, and it was away for a reasonable period of time for the service, and that was partly go backwards and forwards about things that we're doing, and partly we were locked down here for a while. And I was so pleased that we got over there to get it back, because who knows when we'd have been able to go back again.
It's worth doing.
But you get in that car and it's just everything just feels just special in some way, and you can't put your finger on any one thing. It's pulling all the things, isn't it? It's exactly it's
many
the whole,
parts.
Many parts, and people would compare it with the F40 because they were around at the time and things like that. But this is a complete car, and as you say, it was designed to be driven down the autobahn at speed and be completely quiet and stable.
And probably do 200,000 miles.
I sincerely hope so.
Where an F40 wasn't designed for that.
Yeah, different criteria, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's very different, but people sort of had that sort of poster image. And,
absolutely.
And the default position is go F40 and the amazing car. But I think it's more the thinking man's choice.
I think you've got to see it as well, because it's all right seeing posters, but having now seen it, touched it, so to speak, it's a different car to me. It's not just on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I like the F40s and all those.
Absolutely,
but you couldn't help but look back at that. If you were signing a bit of paper for the F40, you'd be thinking, oof, I don't know, probably go for the 959.
I think the people equally, there'll be people doing it the other way.
Obviously, that's the choice in the world.
And it absolutely makes the world go round. It makes it an exciting place that people. We all love our Porsches, but and there are people who love their Ferraris, their McLarens, or whether they love their Golfs.
The other thing, driving, we were coming back and driving rain, so it's not like we had a nice dry run home. It really did get tested, and it just was like a new Porsche. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So a lot of credit to it.
Lee, I've got a question for you. There was a picture I saw where you were driving it and you were pulling a particular face.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can reconstruct that for us right now. But what was actually going through your mind while you were pulling that face?
I was watching the speedometer.
Okay.
I was recording for a video at the time, and I think I was sitting at maybe 200 clicks, 120 mile an hour. Dropped a cog, put the foot down, and the 959's twin turbos, they're sequential.
Yeah.
So it's not like the modern stuff where there's just, no lag whatsoever, but you just get full boost. They're so incredible, aren't they? In terms of how they're built these days, that you just get, zero lag, full boost for ages, don't you? Whereas the 959's engine, I think, has got a lot more character to it. So the first turbo kicks in, and then at about 4,500 RPM, you get this almighty whack in the back from the second turbo where that kicks off. And you'd sit there, you put your foot down, and again, like classic 911 turbo of the time, wait a little bit, gets to 4.5K, and then you're off.
So I like to call that, when it goes to 4.5K, the hucker moment.
Yeah,
so it huckers down. So that is the hucker face.
It is where it was. It was but then, like I say, you put your foot down, and then it just goes, like 220, 230, 240.
Keep going.
Change up, 250. And it was just like, that moment of like, bloody hell, this thing will absolutely do 200 mile an hour.
Yeah.
It was.
It's a bit criminal that it never got that 200 mile an hour.
Well, funnily enough, right, so I just as a very kind of quick story, I emailed this Ben Dimpson, who helped along with Richard Soderbergh design the exterior of the 959. We'll discuss Ben Dimpson in the next episode, as we said, but I did email him. I said, I'd just like to let you know I've got back from Germany and I've actually driven the 959. It made me kind of think of you and
Thierry.
And I said, I was very happy to get to 260 kilometres, and then I held off out of respect for the owner. And he came back and he said, great to hear you've driven the 959. even though you only took it to 150. Fair play. But I mean, he was around at the time when they were being built, and even 35 years later, he's willing you to do stuff that's kind of built for you. So that was what the face was, any case.
It was a good face, definitely.
You couldn't see, but it was just like, this is absurd. This is a 35-year-old car. It's about to propel me to the horizon.
So when anybody asks me what I thought of the 959 as a passenger, I say, even now, it felt like the future when I was in it. It still feels like the future, even 30 years after it's been built. What's your take?
I think for me, as I said earlier on, it's just the absolute line in the sand moment for Porsche as a company. Porsche is, as Carl Mayer has said on a previous pod, Porsche is an engineering company. And at Weissach, whilst they've made sports cars for not just Porsche, but other manufacturers as well, they've also helped make aeroplanes and aircraft and all sorts of random stuff that we don't know and probably never will know. And that really just cements the fact that Porsche is an engineering company. And if there's one product that exemplifies Porsche's, as I said, excellence in engineering, but also its integrity of engineering, it is the 959. And that for me, that is the absolute ultimate, definitive, will never be beaten. Porsche likes to have pictures or put the 959 next to the Carrera GT, next to the 918 as its kind of Halcyon car to represent that period. But for me, as absolutely fantastic as the 918 is and the Carrera GT is, they just don't touch the 959 because of what that car means to the company. You know?
What do you think, Paul? What's your take on it? 959 over everything else?
I agree with you. And I think you've also got to, you look at those three Halo Porsches. You've got to look at what was available to them at that time that you were building the 959. If you take the era of the Carrera GT, look what the Ferrari, Lamborghini, who other manufacturers, the new ones coming through, the Pagani's, the Zondas, when you come into the 918 era, that the world had moved on. And the technology that was the ABS and all these things that had come in and the increase in power.
The engineering was easier.
Yes, computer-aided design, and that became the more easy. So you have to look at the moment in time when it was produced and the engineering that was available to them at the time, and therefore the achievement. It's not belittling any achievement in something that's gone after, but it was a much more groundbreaking. And actually, you say it was the future. It felt like the future. Now, think what it must have been like at that time.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just mind blowing. And so therefore. They are amazing cars, Carrera GT, 918. I'm not a particular fan of hybrid technology, but the Carrera GT, that's different. That it was a F1 derived engine. But again, it was produced in an era that doesn't have even the same technology in terms of suspensions as the 959.
No, it doesn't, does it?
No.
The Carrera GT has quickly got old, which actually now is kind of what's part of its charm in terms of values, because everyone's got hybrid cars or turbocharged, and then there's this thunderous V10 mid-engine super sports car around.
The Carrera GT is more Ferrari F40 in a way, isn't it?
Well, I suppose
if you know what I mean. It's that more. It's a raw
carbon fiber tub.
The kind of the influence of the Carrera GT in everything else that Porsche has done is kind of, it remains just with the Carrera GT. It doesn't permeate into other areas of the business.
Absolutely.
It's the 959 still does, as we know. It's the analog nature of the Carrera GT compared with the you can go and buy, step in a 3-4 year old Ferrari, it'll be quicker. A McLaren, a 12C McLaren will be quicker. But it's the theatre that goes with it, the analog, and in my view, the thing out of the Carrera GT that has influenced or found its way into more Porsches than anything else is the wooden gear knob. Because it's just, whereas you go to the 959, and we've discussed previously this evening, all the technology that is still relevant and still happening.
Huge tour de force, wasn't it?
You think the big achievement with that would be take a Le Mans car and make it fit for the road? Because that's what it sort of feels to me, is you've got a road going car, but you've got the race technology that is hard to put on the road in a civilised way.
Funny you say that.
And I think Ferrari have done it the other way. You've got a fast road car, and they've made it faster, I guess, for the track. But that's what it felt to me when that car pulled away. No fuss, no noise. It did what it was supposed to do, and
you're bang on
safely, if you know what I mean. You weren't fighting the steering wheel. There was no back end movement. As I say, it was horrendous rain and stuff.
Yeah, in a lesser way, I think that a car that probably did that too was the original Audi Quattro.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Because that was suddenly
it began to homologate things, weren't it?
And you had this 4-wheel drive car that had 200. The first one's about 200 brake, and then they went up to 240 or something like that. Yeah. And at the time, they were considered very quick, but it was actually the way they went round corners.
Yeah.
And the sort of people that bought those were people who really knew about cars, and they were phenomenal at the time.
Yeah.
And look what it's done for Audi.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You still buy a Quattro today, can't you? Carried that all the way through.
Yeah, exactly the same way. Definitely.
But I think that's it, the cornering. So that's probably where I was going. You've got a race car that's 200 mile a month straight, and then it can take, 50 mile an hour bends at God knows what speed. And I think that's the 959. You're not going to drive it like that, but if you needed to, I bet you would eat it.
It would be incredible to perhaps have somebody, perhaps one of the Porsche drivers, and just to take you around a track in it, just to see what it could do. It would be amazing, absolutely amazing.
Ben McLaughlin, let's get him.
Yes, definitely. There's a fantastic historical picture of Walter Rowell in a 959 Sport just going around a corner. I think it's on the test track at Weissach, and like the rear of the car is sitting on the floor. He's just come around the corner. It's just like gas, and the nose is in the sky. He's driving it. His quote, isn't it, on good drivers or proper drivers have flies on the side windows.
That's it. That's definitely
exemplifies it.
Yeah.
So, Paul, if we could find a willing driver, do you fancy
an insurance to go with it?
Yeah. Do you fancy a couple of laps around a track?
Come back, Paul.
Date of next podcast.
Yes,
I would, but it would have to be. Yes, I would. I'd like, but I'd have to feel comfortable with the whole situation, because it would be just horrendous if something happened. Obviously, if something happened to somebody in the car, that's dreadful. But for the car, because it feels very together. It's
you couldn't put it back, could you?
No, it's as Lee, your expression is, the car's only original once.
Exactly.
And that car is original, late series. And I actually don't know how many 959s there are in the UK, or I've never met another owner.
Really?
No. So if anybody knows owners of 959s,
we'll track them.
Tell you what a WhatsApp group that was.
Oh yeah.
We should at this point come on to Sunday, because we have all just attended Rain 20
Rain Sport.
Rain Sport, yes.
Rain Sport.
Road to Rain Sport. It definitely was, because
my God,
all drove some of Paul's cars to get the cars up there and back, and I mean it was actually lashing it down Sunday morning.
Biblical.
I'm incredibly grateful for you guys for driving up, but also badges of honour to Joe and to Andy, who were in early 911 with a 73 RS and an ST,
rear wheel drive,
period tyres, period demisting,
lighting,
i.e. none,
period candle headlights.
You didn't even have heating.
I was going to say, one of them had heating. It wasn't mine.
Mine was
My feet were freezing.
I found the seats comfortable in the ST, but that was about it.
Hold on, I was saying, being that Chuck just piped up, should we just stop on that for a moment? So Chuck was I gave him a lift up in the morning. He said, I'll jump in, keep you company on the way up. He took one look at the ST and jumped ship for the 991 GTS.
Yeah, that was very pleasant, actually. Thank you for that. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
So you ducked out of it.
So how was the heated seat?
It was good. It's good for my head anyway.
But these guys, hats off to you. It was dark. It was cats and dogs rain, lying water.
Yeah.
Tell you what though, at 5:30 on Sunday morning, despite the rain, so we'd all met up at Paul's, and we had a good old fashioned keys in the bowl moment, didn't we? It was a case of a lucky
Think about
dip.
Lee, you just walked to the bloody GT a 4 litre. You didn't
No,
have the bloody.
I to be fair, I pulled the key out for that, and I thought, thank God for that. Looking at the other two.
Is that after having a good feel of each key? Because obviously that key's a little bit easier to find.
I think
Funny
you
that.
went first, Andy, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Andy
yeah.
went first. He's obviously his feeling ability isn't that good because
Yeah.
pulled out the
Yeah.
the 73
Joe,
key.
Joe and I had a brief to say to the one that looks like a car, don't get anything that looks like a key.
There's no short straws there like, at all.
No, absolutely not.
Andy driving a 2.7 RS, the father of Rennsport. What did you make of that?
Well, I've had to book an appointment with the doctor since for my blood pressure because it's not come down. It's still, I was so nervous.
I thought it was a wind problem though.
50p, 20p all the way up. Yeah. What was it like though? You know, that's a hell of an experience. So.
I tried to put it into like 3 words, and the car's so tight. Mm-hmm. It's a real tight car, isn't it?
Great
Everything
example.
feels just. It feels like it could have
It's
come
the
out of
touring,
it.
is it, on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's touring.
Nice, yeah.
Bit bouncy.
Yeah.
Like suspension was quite sort of.
Big
wingy,
tyres,
but that's
aren't
that's
they?
the first older 911 than I've driven before, and the other thing was Revy.
Yeah.
So 70 miles an hour.
Referring back
Yeah,
to Blue
on a-
Light Blunders. What have you learned?
Clearly nothing.
So cruising on a private highway at 90 miles an hour, and it's sort of 5,000 RPM.
Yeah. It's quite.
Quite revvy.
Yeah, it's quite revvy. I was quite surprised at that myself.
Yeah, being the touring, I don't know, you'd have thought it was, but what the power, lightness, just lovely. Yeah.
And I think the important thing is take yourself back to 1973.
Oh, yeah.
And were you driving?
Cortina.
Mark 1.
No, I had a Mark 1. I'm sure if it's 73. No, it's probably a Vauxhall Viva in 73. I think it just passed my test or something.
You imagine the roads at that time, and you
Yeah,
suddenly
60
had
brake.
this light 210 brake
Yeah.
horsepower.
Yeah.
It'd be a rocket ship, wouldn't it?
210, yeah.
I mean, I remember top trumps with those in there. If you've got them,
Yeah.
you were the RS. I mean, just phenomenal
Yeah.
at the time.
No other road car had a wing on it until the 2.7 RS came along. It's the first production road car with a rear wing in that.
Yeah.
You know so many useless facts, don't you?
Yeah.
I think at the time, my friend had a Lotus.
He is that guy.
My wife is so lucky.
No wonder she sleeps well.
My friend's Lotus Cortina, which was like a wheel drawed over. I think it was about 100 brake. I can't remember exactly.
yeah,
I
probably
think
right.
that
Yeah.
was like, we all thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
You didn't see a 911. My uncle turned up with an S, and it was an early S, so it was like in the 70s, and said to me, jump in. And we were sped off in that. And I just come back and said, what is this car? Because I didn't have no clue. Didn't know what a Porsche was or anything. And that was my sort of, love affair.
Was that your
Porsches.
moment?
It was. That was my moment,
Teary-eyed.
Probably before losing my cherry, that one. But no, fantastic car. I thought if you could have afford that car, and then the Widowmaker type thing come on the back of it with the turbos and all the rest of it, and I can understand why, having bent one or two. They were quick.
Yeah, amazing car.
Yeah. Oh, before we asked Joe how you got on with the ST, because that's an animal of a car, isn't it? But we were driving along. I mean, I think I led or swapping with Paul in terms of leading for some of the journey, because I was the only one that had the kind of proper headlights to lock.
This is true.
I was kind of out in front in the RS.
I think the 959's probably got the worst headlights out of all of them, isn't it?
Yeah, they're not great. And
Yeah.
they having done 1,000 kilometres back from Germany, and when we came back to the UK,
Oh, I remember that night, I was
that made
thinking
that
of you.
morning look
Yeah.
positively.
Yeah.
But they aren't great. Very grateful to follow. And then the wingman at the back, Phil in the 991 GTS.
Well, I think as we got nearer to the venue, you guys overtook me, and I just thought, well, how about that? Watching you guys bomb past, and I thought it's actually kind of worked out all right in terms of the cars we got, because Andy, you had an air-cooled 911 with a ducktail, very similar to your 993. Joe, you had an air-cooled flatback left-hand drive 911, so there's similarities with your 912 there. And obviously the RS 4 litre and the 996 have lots in common in that they're both water-cooled unicorn 911. Everybody. I just thought, well, what similarities? And I got to water-cooled, short shift, and a lightweight flywheel, and then I thought I better start to the scores already. I thought it was some sort of bit of poetry to the choices in the end.
Absolutely.
But Joe, ST anyway, how did you get on with the Condor Green, isn't it?
Condor Green.
Condor Green Beast.
Well, it's a bit of me, isn't it?
I'd say so.
Definitely. I mean, it's a bit like my 912 on extreme steroids. Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I don't know. I mean, that engine is
so brilliant. He didn't let the keys out of his hand all weekend.
Did you drive on the way back as well?
Yeah.
Hold on. I drove it back to get back because you guys disappeared. There was nobody volunteered a different car. You were gone. I was like, I think you all took one look at the weather and the rain and the car, and were like, no, stick with it. But no, it was it was interesting in the water. But yeah, much better.
Because what tyres that's on?
Michelin.
Michelin TB5s.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I felt quite good on the tyres that I had on the 2.7.
I didn't. Not in that. Not in the water was interesting.
The water was not great.
How loud is it in the ST?
How loud is it in the ST?
He's talking loud still, isn't he?
Genuinely, this isn't me bullshitting. I genuinely got into bed when I got home and my ears were actually still ringing.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually ringing. I think it's that sort of resonance kind of, because there's not much, is there? There's like firewall, there's like a waft of carpet over it, and that's it. I don't think there's anything else in it. So it's,
It's Weber's, isn't it? Is that or injection?
Injections, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's an injection.
MFI. Yeah.
But it's
very induction noise.
I think
you've got massive induction.
I think on the way back, I just found a sweet spot that's sort of 60, 65. If you sort of just touch the throttle, it was sort of that was okay. You could talk over that. But yeah, as soon as you touch the throttle, it was like it was an animal and just wanted to get away.
Spit in flames.
Yeah. Oh, it was. She said, yeah.
It did actually. I remember following you around about near Silverstone, and it chucked some fire out in your face. Yeah.
What's the give us the lowdown on the engine, because it's got a bit of a built motor in it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Manfred Rugen, who's a very well-known German engine builder. Very well respected in racing circles, and he rebuilt the engine.
Yeah, they're
Beautiful
a fascinating
looking.
history to them, because they're essentially 911Ss or 911Ts, I think, with a sport packet.
Yeah.
And each are individually built to like the customer spec at the time. I mean, they were built to race, weren't they? That was the that was the thing. Is it 23 of them from factory or something?
23 or so. That car was delivered to Munich. It's unfortunately the sort of it's a bit sketchy. I mean, at the time nobody really sort of took records unless there's photographic records and people were taking part in well publicised events. That particular car was delivered to somebody and had what they called an airfield gearbox. It was hill climb. So the gearbox in it is not original.
Yeah.
That's not an original gearbox.
Right.
That it would have been even shorter.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what you do. You actually you ordered a T because that was the weight, the low weight, and then you built your car from there. And the history behind that car was that it was they went to Germany to Sweden. There was a rally driver in Sweden, and there's a little placard. What he called the car, Megan, something like that. And it was actually Josh Sadler of Auto Farm got a phone call from the owner, and somebody was looking at the car, and it went over to look at it and was like, "Yeah, this is what I think it is," and brought it back to the UK. It was sold to somebody from a well-known motor racing family, and he restored it.
Okay.
And
it's been done so well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a real.
A lot of detailing.
Oh yeah. That's a proper build.
And the only thing it lacks is sort of a lot of racing history. But there's a lot of information from Porsche about it. And when time allows, I might go over to the dealer in unit that supplied it, and just see whether we can dig out some more information about who it went to, and whether there's some racing history there, because it would be nice to put together. But yeah,
I love it when you lift up the engine cover and you've got all of the amber fiberglass housings. What do you call it? The
Carbon.
Fan shroud.
Yeah, the fan shroud.
carbon.
Just amazing.
At this point, should we play the interview with Paul Goudon, the Ren 20
Yes,
organiser?
yeah,
'Cause
we had
got
a little
10
chat
minutes with him, didn't we?
Yeah, to find out how it was to put on the event this year. It sounded much more difficult than it was the year before, obviously.
Well, actually, do you want to give us a 30-second rundown on the 4 litre? I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
You obviously.
well, and Andy, you drove it.
Well, should we come
You
back
both
to
did,
that?
yeah.
Let's
come
play.
back to
Let's
it.
play the
All right, come
interview
back
and then come back to that. Yeah, cool.
Are we on?
We're on.
We are indeed. Where are we today, Lee?
We're at Ren 20
Hey.
with Paul, the organiser.
Hi guys,
Paul, cheers for joining us for a little bit.
you're welcome.
First of all, like, what's the thesis behind the event? It's year 2, isn't it?
Year 2. First year was last year. It was a bit of a test in the water, really. We the reason why it started is we had some guys having a track day with some really cool cars.
Yeah.
We had a private day at Donington. When we looked at the list of cars, a few of the guys that were coming internationally said, we should park these up and let people see them.
Yeah.
So it was at Donington. We hired Donington Hall. We had probably about 70 cars then. Parked it up. Did a little bit of marketing, but there's no budget, so it was kind of word of mouth more than anything. Went down really well. People seemed to enjoy it. So
Yeah, it was excellent. I was there. Enjoyed it very
that's
much.
good. Thank you for saying that. So we decided to have another go this year. Planned it for August.
Yeah.
Then there was a bit of an illness went round, caused a few issues for us.
Absolutely.
So it's been really hard to organise. To be fair, wasn't expecting to be as difficult as this. We postponed it because it seemed like it wasn't the right time to do it in August.
Yes. Yeah.
Moved it to here. It doesn't seem to. It got better, I think, in August. It might have been better to leave it as it was, but we didn't know that. And it's been a real push to try and make it happen because there's been a lot to try and to prevent it in the last couple of weeks,
Absolutely.
especially.
Yeah.
You lucked out with the timing. I mean, Christ, is it 3 days' time? We're all back in lockdown.
Back
Yeah,
indoors,
and our
yeah.
track day is on Tuesday, so it's
Oh,
the
is
day
it?
before lockdown.
Yeah.
So
The majority of these cars are UK based, are they not?
all of them this time.
Excellent.
So
Yeah.
last year there was more cars because we had more European stuff.
Yeah.
This year they were all coming, and then obviously they've been prevented from coming. So it's been a real shame. There's some absolutely cracking cars that aren't coming.
Yeah.
But you know what? We've got next year. So
Yeah.
next year there'll be probably, I would expect 50 to 60% more cars than we have today.
Yeah.
And also certain cars like the Group Cs. We've got no Group Cs today. Last year we had 4.
Yes.
We couldn't get them this year just because of the weather. So they were like worried about putting them on the grass and stuff. So there's been a few issues. People like David Piper was to bring the 917, but because of COVID, he's obviously naturally a little bit concerned, being a bit older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a few cars missing that we wanted to be here, but we managed to get, I think, a really good collection.
It's not a bad line out, is it? I mean, it's and the venue's awesome. I mean, will you be back here next year?
They've asked us to come back.
Have they? Excellent.
Yeah,
That's good.
so I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been testing because obviously it's a full time school. It's half term at the moment, but
Yeah.
they've had issues with international pupils, so they've got a reputation. They've got to maintain it. It's good. So we've had to do a lot of risk assessments and then more risk assessments, but we've got there. They're happy, and they've already asked us to come back next year. So
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I
That's
think we
good.
will.
Yeah. Good.
It'd be nice to know because the plethora of cars here, like the standard of them is insane. But like, what car would you say is like your favourite? Which car are you most pleased to see with your own eyes here today?
Okay, well, there could be quite a few. There, personally, we had a 959 coming last year and it dropped out last minute. So to have a 959 here was cool. Rare car, but for me, just as a kid, it's poster
one.
car.
Is that why it's parked next to yours?
It might be why.
Excellent.
Might be
Yeah.
next to mine. We also had a car coming that had to drop out last minute, which was one of the Nürburgring 24 Manthey cars.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So that was
okay.
coming until yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm gutted that didn't make it, but hopefully we'll get that next year.
Why did it fall through out of interest?
Just logistics of getting it here.
Yeah.
It tied in with the team that runs it. They couldn't get it for certain reasons. So
Yeah.
it was a shame.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. The Dempsey Proton's pretty cool as well, the RSR. So
yeah.
I think that's a pretty cool one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And David's 904 GTS, that looks great. We've moved. I'm hoping people see that because we've moved that down by the chapel.
That's such a pretty car, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
I'm hoping that's a good poster car that people are going to take lots of
Yeah.
pictures
Yeah.
of. and
Well,
share.
we were cooking our sausages next to it.
Is that a euphemism? I like it as well.
And there was plenty of people coming down to see it.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Was that-
Sniffing, weren't they?
Yeah. Sniffing out our
Sniffing the
sausages.
sausages.
Yeah. We'll put a few of our favourite pictures up on our Instagram page. So
Absolutely,
if
yeah.
people couldn't make today, they'll be able to see kind of the calibre of car that was here on our Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we'll
great.
make sure we do that. And like where do you want to take this show next year, Paul?
Well, there was going to be some official Porsche involvement this year.
Yeah.
They cancelled everything this year. So despite us being quite far in the talks in, I think it's February, March time. So they want to talk to us about next year. So we'll see what they're in. But at the end of the day, it's still a private event that doesn't have any, major corporate involvement. So next year, we'd like to get a few more trade stands, just grow it organically a little bit.
Yeah.
Get some new cars as well. So literally, we're starting to plan this from next week for next year because we'll be back in the summer. But to be fair, the weather's been
Oh, we've
fairly
been
okay.
lucky today.
Yeah, we
Jeez.
got wet yesterday setting up.
Oh, we got wet this morning, I tell you, coming.
Yeah, true,
Yeah,
true.
it was quite a trip up through lots of puddles.
Yeah, and the guys at iValet who have been, prepping the cars for us, there's 4 guys and they were like, oh my God, how are we going to get through this? But they've done really well. And then
Yeah.
luckily it's maintained to be fairly dry. So,
Yes,
so we've
absolutely.
been all right. And there's been a lot of people.
Yeah, good turnout.
Yeah, it's been really good turnout.
Yeah.
Considering the circumstances, I think it's been amazing, really. It's probably double the people we had last year. So,
Yeah.
and we still didn't market this one because, even 4 weeks ago, we didn't know if we were allowed to do it.
Yeah.
So we refrained because we didn't want to sell over tickets, and then have to cancel it. So we didn't really do a bit of a marketing push really even until the last 2 weeks. So
It's not bad for a couple of weeks run up there.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it has been really well received. I think everyone's just desperate for a nice car event.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
not been many this year, is there?
No, it's been a poor old year.
Yeah.
Is it a tough thing to put on? I mean, is it, how many's in your team that kind of put this on? Is it?
Me.
Yeah.
That's it.
So just me.
Wow.
I put it on there. I've got 2 guys who help me on the days,
Yeah.
and then I've got a team that we have. So we've got 15 staff who are helping who do car events from Le Mans and Formula One. So they're great. They know what they're doing. But in terms of the logistics for the whole thing, it's just the one. But next year there won't be just one.
So that's a lot
Yeah.
for one person there.
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah. But this year's been strange. I said last year I wouldn't do it on my own, but because this year's been so stop-start,
Yeah.
you kind of just keep going, and then you realise, actually, I can't bring anyone on now.
Yeah.
So, but next year I think we'll increase it because hopefully it'll be a bit bigger.
Yeah. Many people doing the track day on Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, it's private, so there's going to be a fair few cars. A lot of the guys who are going to bring not necessarily cars that are here, but they're bringing other race cars they've got. So we're still going to have a 910, RSR, 3 litres, quite a few cup cars and GT3s and stuff. So it's a real mixture from like 60s right through to modern stuff.
Wonderful.
Yeah, even the GT2 RS Manti is going to be there. I think he's pretty much on slicks as well. So
Yeah.
quite fun. He'll
Sounds
be
like a fun
driving
day out.
fast past all of us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Will you be on track?
Yeah, I'll take mine on. But it's just making sure everyone's there. And Donington have been really good. I think they've maintained running track days pretty much through the lockdown anyway. So they're geared up nicely so we can turn up and just have a day and come away. But it's an unrestricted day, so a lot of the guys who have got RSRs are bringing those as well. So
How many cars are going to run round?
I think we keep it quite low, but it's probably about 25 or so.
Yeah, it's a nice number to be on
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So it's nice enough, and it's a sociable thing.
Excellent.
Spot on, yeah. Well, Paul, thank you very much for your time today. It's
Thanks for having me.
a cool show. Cool to come and have a look around, isn't it? So
Definitely.
Thanks for coming,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was Paul at Ren 20. Fun day out, has to be said.
Yeah, it's excellent.
I have to say, I didn't really see the cars. I was chatting to people.
No, but that's what was great about it was actually seeing lots of people and chatting at
Definitely.
a distance, obviously. But yeah, I didn't
take
actually look
pictures
at
for
many
Instagram.
cars. I know I didn't take any pictures. I don't think. The only thing
many
I took
photographers
pictures of was sausages.
Oh yes,
Yeah, our sausages.
Honestly, that was probably my
can share
highlight.
a few.
There was this this waft coming from the RS 4 litre. People coming along, and you could see their nose going. It was the onions, and then you two were down by the car. Like,
So-
fucking hell.
Paul wasn't able to get any hospitality in. No drinks, no food. I think the idea was that he didn't want people congregated anywhere.
Yeah.
And we caught wind of this, and Paul very kindly bought some I can't say the word.
Butcher's sausages.
That's the one.
Chipolatas, so they cook a bit more quickly.
Yeah, well done. Yeah.
Connoisseur.
So we got ourselves organised. Joe bought the buns.
And the pigs.
Yeah, I bought some onions, and we fried it all up behind the 4 litre.
Fair
Got some eggs as well.
play.
And eggs, yeah, we did, didn't we?
The eggs,
Yeah.
proper fried egg event.
It was exactly that. It was absolutely spot on. But it was just brilliant how people would come over, take a picture of the RS 4 litre, and then just look down the sides. You know, what debauchery is going on down here?
Yeah, alternative, they'd be taking their picture and they'd be photobombed by somebody paying. Coffee's ready.
Yeah, it's good.
So,
Yeah.
well played. There's
Yeah,
a
the
measured
PPF is
attack.
melted.
Did its job then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a chipolata rolling around the inside of the
yeah.
997.
Wren sausage.
Lee's looking for one.
But we could have paid for our petrol there and back if we'd known. And
Been onto a winner
yeah,
there.
we could have been, especially with the fact we had was at the 904 in the background and set up on those steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was hats off to Paul for the event and actually managed to get it off the ground. And you're right, there were a lot of really enthusiastic people, a lot of people who hadn't seen for a while, and it was great to get together, especially in the light of what we're all facing over tomorrow evening.
Yeah.
I think they lucked out with the timing, didn't they? I mean, Christ, it's literally days before the imminent second wave.
Well, even the sun came out.
It did.
Journey
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Back was raining and the sun popped out for
What was amazing is
hours.
we were leaving. What was it, about 2? No,
1 o'clock.
1:30, and I think we drove maybe half a mile up the road, and it started raining, didn't it?
Yeah, it did,
And it
yeah.
hadn't rained
Yeah.
at all while we were at the event
Yeah,
for,
lucky.
for
We,
5 hours.
We swapped cars on the way back. You were in the RS 4 litre, I was in the
Yeah.
2.7 RS, which was awesome. You know, the roundabouts, there's loads of them all going around Silverstone onto, is it the
Yes.
M40 then,
Yeah.
isn't it? It was great fun round there, I have to say.
Yeah.
And that RS 4 litre road presence, wow.
Oh,
That's got so much road presence to it, hasn't it? You know?
Yeah, it really looks something on the road. And it's
Yeah.
I was talking about the 959 earlier, to actually see that car on the road, and
It's the boss, isn't it?
It's
the boss.
It's the size. It looks proportioned.
Yeah, everything's right.
And I think we were discussing that today. The wing doesn't look out of place on that particular car. I
No.
think that some of the wings on the 991s, you look at it and think, oh, yeah, I understand why it's there, but do I really want it there? Whereas with that, it just looks proportioned.
Just
Proper
right.
job, yeah. And actually, they're more practical than the 3.8 in that regard, because the the 4 litre is slightly higher the wing over the 3.8. So when you're driving in the RS 3.8, you can't really see too much if you're reversing. You can't see too much because the wing is right in the way. It's right in your eye line. Whereas where the 4's just a little bit kind of raised, there's a practical element there that you can see where you're reversing.
That was the worst bit for me, was trying to reverse the 4 litre into the parking space at the end of the drive. The rest of it was amazing.
Yeah.
I was so nervous trying to park it in between the big concrete bollards.
I have to say that the 4 litre over the 3.8 has noticeably more torque lower down. That's the beauty of that 4 litre engine. Road holding's fantastic, but when you press the sport button, and there is a huge difference in the 997 when you press the sport button, that throttle response for me, I don't know what you think to this, Paul, I think that is right up there with the 911R for just absolute, that is razor sharp throttle response. And again, I just, aside from the R, that is unbeatable in any 911.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact it's an RSR crank in there, isn't it? So there's a lot of motorsport bits. It's rose jointed at the back, but actually it's not a crashy ride at all.
Oh, the ride's
really,
amazing.
Really nice and compliant on the road. So that is, I mean, you know, forget the fact that there's 600 of them made and it was a numbered production run. That is a phenomenal 911.
Yeah.
Phenomenal 911.
We talked that to Cumbria.
Yes.
And noticed on the roads there. Joe, you drove a little while there. That's it's done 2,000 miles on the board. It's now done six and a half, I think, is it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Proper
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, so it's the presence on the road is fantastic, and you're right about the throttle response. It sort of transforms the car. It's a different car.
It's like it's had a coffee. You press that, and it just everything focuses in. You know, it does. And
Double espresso,
It
please.
is without doubt, but that throttle response is unreal. I don't know
It was
what-
quite at home in Cumbria, wasn't it? On some of those roads that
Yes.
Yeah.
going round and round and round. That
Oh,
worked well.
so you'd have had loads of fun doing that on those sorts of roads. You know, that's just what that car's built for. I think. You know.
Probably the right size for it.
Yeah,
where the
yeah,
sort of
definitely.
991's probably getting a bit big almost.
Yeah, and it's a proper analog 911, isn't it? So.
I think again it's a moment in time, Paul, and probably slightly underrated. I won't say undervalued because that's not really the case, but I think probably slightly underrated as to what it represents in terms of the last of the Metzger engine, the size of it, and a moment in time. Will we see the 911R was probably the next one? Will we see another 911 like that, of that ilk?
Yeah, well, this is it. Who knows? But certainly not. Excuse me. Certainly not with a Metzger engine, and it's got that distinct tone to it, isn't it? It sounds great.
Yeah,
It's hard to imagine a 992 version of one of these short run, whether it's an R, whether it's a 4 litre. Can you imagine a 992 version of one of those? It's difficult, isn't it?
It's a big car.
Yeah, not with the same appeal, like you say. Yeah, that the 997 is nimble enough compared to the 991 to be properly enjoyed, like on the road. Especially on our like twisty little B roads that we've got in this country. Winging a big old turbo-bodied 992 around those sorts of roads is a different proposition.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it didn't feel a big car at all when driving it. No. It felt perfect around you. I did find it really interesting because obviously I drove the 2.7 in the morning and then the 4 litre in the afternoon.
What a crap day.
Yeah, it's awful. Absolutely
Won't
awful.
be coming again then.
No. But the sort of, for me, it cemented that I've got the right car for me in my 993. Because I love the old school cabin where you feel like, you're just almost in a full face helmet. It's just the way I sort of feel it. The windscreen sort of comes all the way around you. You're right there, tight. The 997 feels a bit big and modern for me inside. The windscreen's quite a long way forward. But love the way that the 997 goes down the road, and I see more of that in the 993. So it was a real good cement moment for me to know that I think I picked the right car for me.
Well, how awesome is that out of everything there on the day, and those two incredible experiences, that's solidified your own sort of testimony in your car.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, isn't it?
Spot on.
Yeah,
absolutely spot on.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Well, we'll wrap that up. That is our experiences in those amazing cars, the 959, the 27 RS, the ST and the RS 4 litre. Paul, don't envy you in cleaning them all, that's for sure.
I'll be completely honest, I don't.
Maybe that's where Chuck comes into it.
Well, actually, guys, I've got you. You got those rather the freebies we got.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, we use them.
Yeah, come on round.
Actually, they weren't gifts for you. They were tools. You got well, who are they?
G-Tech.
G-Tech.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
G-Tech.
G-Tech, for the very nice bags.
Yeah,
I did go and chat to G-Tech, and they said they'd be quite keen for someone to give us a bit of insight, knowledge on their products and what
Is
they
it
do.
G-Technique?
G-Technique is,
G-Technic or G-Technique?
No,
G-
just
G-Technique.
remember that was Chuck that gave you a plug, so any freebies?
it is G-Technic,
Yeah, G-Technic. I think that'd be really interesting. I mean, it's some things, it's subjects you think, I'm not sure about that. And I remember listening to your insurance podcast, which initially, but what an eye! I mean, fascinating.
Yeah. We keep discussing that between ourselves, saying, we thought when we were doing it,
We thought it was a bit dry, didn't we? We thought this might not be great.
Not sure this is going to hit the mark, but it's that sort of pod
really
that
well,
include done really well, and lots of people have commented how interesting it was because they found out information that they didn't know.
Well, I use Lockton, and I have to say they've been fantastic. The individual I deal with, but also the product they offer. And
They probably allow things like the weekend. I mean, that because they've got that policy, haven't they? Is it any driver over a certain age and you're covered
Correct.
on your all your cars? Which I mean, I hadn't heard of that elsewhere before.
Yeah.
Historically, you'd be frantically ringing around trying to add your friends on for weekends or days or to different insurances, and just logistically it'd be a nightmare. So
it's fun. It's really good. But a bit more importantly, the personnel that you're dealing with. You've actually got somebody dedicated, you email dedicated you can speak to, which is great.
Yeah.
And be interested to hear what G-Technique about really what's behind that, because we all let's get sold to you by dealerships at a certain price point, but actually be understanding what it's really all about.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up. We're going to have a quick cup of tea break, and then we're going to be on recording the episode for next week. So we're keen to record 2 tonight and then drip feed through for week 2 while we're in lockdown, because it's nice to enjoy our company, isn't it? So that'll be that. I think that's our experiences in those Halo cars. Paul, thank you for supplying them, as we said.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you guys for tonight. Obviously coming around and giving us a bit of a low rundown.
Biscuits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, cheers for the biscuits, Chuck. Exactly that.
Good plans.
Happy days.
Plethora of biscuits.